The routine walk. The streets of New Aurora hummed with the early morning bustle of a city on the brink of a new era. Towering skyscrapers of glass and graphene stretched towards the lavender sky, their surfaces shimmering with holographic advertisements and news feeds. Sleek hovercars zipped between buildings, leaving faint trails of ionized air in their wake. Among the sea of commuters and autonomous delivery drones, one figure stood out, not for his appearance, but for his companions. Jack Thorne, a man of average height with prematurely graying hair and eyes that hinted at having seen far more than his apparent years, walked purposefully down the main thoroughfare. Flanking him were four creatures that, at first glance, might have been mistaken for large exotic dogs. But these were no ordinary canines. Their bodies were covered in a shimmering iridescent hide that seemed to shift colors with each movement. Where one would expect paws, they had six-digited appendages that gripped the ground with uncanny precision. Their heads were elongated, with no visible ears, and a series of bioluminescent patches pulsed gently along their spines. Most striking of all were their eyes, multifaceted orbs that reflected the city lights like living kaleidoscopes. Jack had walked this route every morning for the past year, and while the stares and whispers had diminished somewhat, they never truly ceased. He could feel the weight of curious gazes upon him, the unasked questions hanging in the air like a static charge. "Morning, Mr. Thorne," called out a young woman tending to a hydroponic storefront. Her smile was friendly, but her eyes kept darting to the creatures. "The pack seems lively today." Jack nodded politely. "Good morning, Lana." "Yes, they're always eager for their walk." He didn't elaborate further, and Lana didn't press. It was an unspoken agreement among the locals. Acknowledge the strangeness, but don't pry too deeply. As they continued down the street, one of the creatures, the smallest of the four, with a hide that shimmered predominantly blue, brushed against Jack's leg. He felt a familiar tingle, a sort of mental nudge that he had come to recognize as their way of communicating. This one, whom he had nicknamed Azure, was always the most attuned to his moods. "It's all right," he murmured, barely above a whisper. "Just another day." But it wasn't just another day, and Jack knew it. The air felt different, charged with an anticipation he couldn't quite place. His companions sensed it too, their bioluminescent patches pulsing a little faster than usual. As they approached Central Plaza, the heart of New Aurora's business district, Jack noticed an increased security presence. Sleek drones with the insignia of the Global Defense Force hovered at key intersections, their sensors sweeping the crowds. Uniformed officers stood at attention near the entrances of major corporations and government buildings. Jack's stride faltered for just a moment, but it was enough. The largest of his companions, a powerfully built creature with a hide that shimmered like burnished copper, moved closer to him. Its multifaceted eyes swiveled, taking in the increased security with what Jack could only interpret as concern. "Easy, Sienna," he said softly, using the name he had given this one. "We're just passing through." But as they entered the plaza proper, Jack's hope for an uneventful morning evaporated. A small crowd had gathered near the central fountain, their attention focused on a holographic display floating above the water. Jack's heart sank as he recognized the image. It was a grainy, enhanced video of him and his companions, captured by a security camera during one of their walks. A voiceover accompanied the footage, the reporter's tone a mix of excitement and trepidation. "Continuing our coverage of the mysterious creatures seen in New Aurora. Experts remain baffled by their origin and nature. Are they exotic pets, bioengineered security units, or something far more extraordinary? The Global Defense Force has issued a statement urging calm, but advises citizens to report any unusual." The report cut off abruptly as Jack approached. The crowd turned almost as one, a ripple of recognition passing through them as they saw him and his companions in the flesh. For a moment, there was only silence, broken only by the gentle splash of the fountain. Then the questions began. "Mr. Thorne, are these creatures dangerous? Where did you get them? Are they aliens? Are you in contact with extraterrestrials? Jack raised a hand, his expression calm but firm. Please, everyone. They're not dangerous. They're my companions. That's all I can say for now. But the crowd wasn't satisfied. A man in a business suit pushed forward, his face flushed with a mix of fear and anger. That's not good enough. We have a right to know what's walking our streets. What if they're a threat? Before Jack could respond, he felt a surge of emotion from his companions, not through words, but through a complex interplay of bioluminescent pulses and subtle shifts in their posture. They were protective, yes, but also curious about the humans' reactions. There was no aggression, only a desire to understand. Sienna, the largest, took a step forward. The crowd gasped and retreated, but the creature simply sat down, its multifaceted eyes reflecting the faces of those nearest. Then, to everyone's astonishment, a soft, melodic trill emanated from somewhere within its body. The sound was like nothing anyone had ever heard, part whale song, part wind chime, with harmonics that seemed to resonate on a cellular level. Those closest to Sienna visibly relaxed, their fear melting away into wonder. Jack seized the moment. You see, they mean no harm. They're intelligent, yes, far more than you might think, but they're peaceful. They're here to learn, to understand. A young girl, no more than 10 years old, had edged closer during this exchange. Her eyes were wide with fascination rather than fear. Can I touch one? She asked hesitantly. Her mother reached out to pull her back, but Jack knelt down to the girl's level. What's your name? He asked gently. Zoe, she replied. Jack smiled. Well, Zoe, if you'd like, you can say hello to Azure here. He gestured to the smallest of his companions, the one with the predominantly blue hide. Just hold out your hand, palm up, and let Azure come to you. Zoe nodded solemnly and did as instructed. Azure approached slowly, multifaceted eyes taking in every detail of the young human. Then, with a gentleness that belied its alien nature, Azure extended one of its 6-digited appendages and placed it in Zoe's open palm. The connection was instant and profound. Zoe's eyes widened, and a smile of pure joy spread across her face. Oh, she exclaimed. It's saying hello. I can feel it. The crowd murmured in astonishment. Jack felt a wave of relief wash over him. This was what he had hoped for, a moment of connection, of understanding. It wasn't the full truth, not yet, but it was a start. As Azure stepped back, rejoining the others, Jack stood up. He addressed the crowd once more, his voice carrying a quiet authority. I know you all have questions. I know you're concerned. But I promise you, these beings are not a threat. They're here on a mission of peace and learning. In time, we'll be able to tell you more. For now, I ask for your trust and your patience. The tension in the air had dissipated, replaced by a cautious curiosity. Even the angry businessman from earlier seemed mollified, if still wary. Jack knew this was only the beginning. There would be more questions, more scrutiny. The authorities wouldn't be satisfied with this simple demonstration. But for now, it was enough. He nodded to his companions, and they fell into step beside him as he made his way across the plaza. The crowd parted, allowing them to pass. Some even smiled or waved, the fear in their eyes replaced by a tentative acceptance. As they left the plaza behind, Jack felt another mental nudge from Azure. This time, he sensed not just emotion, but something closer to actual thoughts. They were pleased with how the encounter had gone, but also expectant, as if they knew this was just the first step in a much larger journey. Jack sighed, a mix of relief and trepidation washing over him. I know, he murmured to his alien companions. It's time. We can't keep the truth hidden much longer. The creature's bioluminescent patches pulsed in unison, a silent acknowledgement. Whatever came next, they would face it together. As they rounded the corner, heading back towards Jack's apartment, The first rays of the morning sun broke through the city's skyline, bathing New Aurora in a golden light. A new day had dawned, and with it, the promise of revelations that would change humanity's understanding of its place in the universe forever. Mounting suspicions. The days following the incident in Central Plaza were tense, filled with a nervous energy that seemed to permeate every corner of New Aurora. Jack Thorne found himself under increasing scrutiny, his every move watched and analyzed by both the public and the authorities. The morning walks with his alien companions, once a peaceful routine, had become a gauntlet of stares, whispers, and not-so-subtle surveillance. As Jack and his four unusual companions made their way down the main street, he couldn't help but notice the changes. Shopkeepers who had once greeted him warmly now eyed him with suspicion. Parents pulled their children closer as he passed, and everywhere, the sleek drones of the Global Defense Force hovered, their cameras tracking his every move. "Just keep calm," Jack muttered, more to himself than to his alien friends. But he felt their reassurance through their mental link, a warmth that spread through his mind like a comforting blanket. As they approached the hydroponics store, Jack saw Lana, the young woman who had always been friendly, speaking with two officers in GDF uniforms. When she spotted Jack, her eyes widened, and she quickly looked away. The officers turned, their expressions hardening as they saw Jack and his companions. "Mr. Thorne," one of the officers called out, his voice crisp and authoritative. "A moment of your time, please." Jack slowed his pace, feeling a ripple of tension pass through his alien companions. "Of course, officers. How can I help you?" The taller of the two officers, a man with a close-cropped beard and piercing blue eyes, stepped forward. "I'm Captain Reeves, and this is Lieutenant Chen. We'd like to ask you a few questions about your pets." Jack felt a flicker of amusement from Azure, the smallest of his companions, at the word pets. If only they knew. "They're not exactly pets, Captain," Jack said carefully, "but I'll answer what I can." Captain Reeves' eyes narrowed. "Not pets. Then what exactly are they, Mr. Thorne? Because our analysts have been working around the clock, and they can't match these creatures to any known species on Earth." Jack took a deep breath, weighing his words carefully. "They're companions, visitors, you might say, here to learn and observe." Lieutenant Chen, a compact woman with sharp features, stepped forward. "Visitors? From where, exactly? Because if you're implying what I think you're implying, Mr. Thorne, you need to understand the seriousness of the situation." Before Jack could respond, he felt a surge of emotion from Sienna, the largest of his companions. The creature's bioluminescent patches pulsed rapidly, and it took a step forward, its multifaceted eyes fixed on the officers. Captain Reeves' hand instinctively moved to his sidearm, but Jack quickly intervened. "It's all right," he said, placing a calming hand on Sienna's shimmering hide. "They're not threatening you. They're curious." "Curious," Lieutenant Chen repeated, her voice tinged with disbelief. "Mr. Thorne, these creatures have been seen all over the city. People are scared. We've received reports of strange energy readings, unexplained technological glitches. You need to come clean about what's really going on." Jack felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. He knew he couldn't reveal everything. Not yet, but he also realized that continued evasion would only make things worse. "All right," he said finally. "You're right. They're not from Earth. They came here. Well, I'm not entirely sure how long ago. I found them, or maybe they found me, about a year ago. They're intelligent, far more than you might think, and they're here on a peaceful mission." The officers exchanged glances, a mix of shock and skepticism on their faces. Captain Reeves leaned in, his voice low. "You expect us to believe that you just happened to find a group of alien beings and decided to, take them for walks around the city?" Jack couldn't help but chuckle at the absurdity of it all. "When you put it like that, it does sound a bit far-fetched. But it's the truth. They needed a guide, someone to help them understand our world. And for whatever reason, they chose me. As if to emphasize his point, Azure moved closer to Jack, its shimmering blue hide rippling with patterns of light. To Jack's surprise, and the clear astonishment of the officers, Azure began to emit a soft, melodic trill, the same sound Sienna had made in Central Plaza. The effect was immediate. The tension in the air seemed to dissipate, replaced by a sense of wonder. Even the hard-faced Captain Reeves looked momentarily awestruck. What was that?" Lieutenant Chen asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Communication," Jack replied simply. "They're trying to show you they mean no harm." For a moment, it seemed as though a breakthrough had been made. The officers' postures relaxed slightly, and Jack dared to hope that perhaps, just perhaps, they might be open to understanding. But then, without warning, all hell broke loose. A high-pitched whine filled the air, causing everyone to wince. The nearby holographic displays flickered and died, and the ever-present GDF drones suddenly dropped from the sky, their systems apparently fried. Jack's alien companions reacted instantly. Their bioluminescent patches blazed with light, and they moved into a protective formation around Jack and the officers. Their multifaceted eyes swiveled rapidly, scanning for threats. "What's happening?" Captain Reeves demanded, his hand now firmly on his weapon. Before Jack could answer, a voice boomed from above, amplified and distorted. "Attention, citizens of New Aurora. This is the Galactic Conclave. Your planet harbors fugitives of immense power and danger. Surrender them immediately or face the consequences." Jack's heart sank. This was exactly what he had feared, what his companions had warned him about. The truth was about to come out, ready or not. "Mr. Thorne," Lieutenant Chen said, her voice tight with barely controlled panic. "You need to explain. Now." Jack looked at his alien companions, feeling a wave of determination and resolve flow through their mental link. They were ready. It was time. "Those aren't just alien visitors," Jack said, his voice steady despite the chaos unfolding around them. "They're guardians. Protectors of worlds that have been targeted by the Galactic Conclave, a group that presents itself as a peaceful federation, but is actually a conquering force." As if to confirm his words, a massive ship shimmered into view above the city, its hull gleaming with an otherworldly metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Your companions," Captain Reeves said, his eyes fixed on the ship above. "They're what the Conclave is after." Jack nodded. "They're the last of their kind. A species so advanced that the Conclave saw them as a threat. They've been hiding here on Earth, trying to prepare us for what's coming." "Prepare us?" Lieutenant Chen echoed. "For what?" Before Jack could answer, Sienna stepped forward. Its body began to shimmer and change, growing larger, more humanoid. In a matter of seconds, where the alien dog had stood, there was now a towering, majestic being that looked like a cross between a human and a living constellation. When it spoke, its voice resonated not in the air, but directly in their minds. "For the war that is about to begin. We are the Stellarians, and we have chosen Earth as our last stand against the Conclave. We no longer have the luxury of secrecy. Now we must fight." The officers stared in stunned silence, their worldview shattering in an instant. Jack felt a mix of relief and trepidation. The truth was out, but the real challenge was just beginning. Above them, the Conclave ship began to power up its weapons. The streets of New Aurora erupted into panic as citizens fled for shelter. But Jack stood his ground, flanked by his now revealed Stellarian allies. "What do we do now?" Captain Reeves asked, his voice steady despite the unprecedented situation. Jack looked at the transformed Sienna, then back at the officers. "Now we show the Conclave that humanity and the Stellarians aren't going down without a fight. Are you with us?" For a moment, the officers hesitated. Then, with a shared look of determination, they nodded. "We're with you," Lieutenant Chen said. As the first energy blasts from the Conclave ship lit up the sky, Jack felt a surge of hope. The secret was out. The battle was beginning. But they weren't alone. Humanity and the Stellarians stood together, ready to face whatever came next. The war for Earth's future had begun, and the outcome would determine the fate of not just one world, but the entire galaxy. The secret unravels. The sky above New Aurora blazed with otherworldly light as the Conclave ship's energy weapons tore through the atmosphere. Chaos reigned in the streets as panicked citizens sought shelter from a threat they couldn't comprehend. Amidst the mayhem, Jack Thorne stood with his Stellarian companions and the two GDF officers, a small island of calm in a sea of turmoil. Sienna, now in its true form as a majestic, constellation-like being, turned its gaze to the Conclave ship. Its voice resonated in their minds once more. We must act quickly. The Conclave will not stop with mere intimidation. Captain Reeves, still visibly shaken by the revelation, but maintaining his composure, spoke up. What exactly are we up against? What kind of firepower does that ship have? As if in answer, a massive energy beam lanced down from the Conclave vessel, striking a nearby skyscraper. The building's advanced materials held for a moment before giving way, its upper floors disintegrating in a shower of molten glass and metal. That, Jack said grimly, is what we're up against. Lieutenant Chen tapped her comm unit, her voice urgent. This is Lieutenant Chen to all GDF units. We have a code Omega. I repeat, code Omega. This is not a drill. Initiate planetary defense protocols immediately. Jack turned to her, surprised. You have protocols for this. Chen managed a wry smile despite the situation. Mr. Thorne, we've been preparing for potential extraterrestrial threats for decades. We just didn't expect them to look like this. As she spoke, the air filled with the sound of sonic booms. Squadrons of sleek fighter craft emerged from hidden hangars throughout the city, streaking towards the Conclave ship. Sienna's mental voice carried a note of concern. Your weapons may not be effective against their shields. We must coordinate our efforts. Jack nodded, then addressed the officers. We need to get to a command center. Somewhere we can coordinate the Stellarians' abilities with your military forces. Captain Reeves hesitated only for a moment before making a decision. The GDF has a bunker beneath Central Plaza. It's our most secure facility. If we can get there, we can direct the defense from underground. Then that's where we're headed, Jack said. He turned to his other Stellarian companions, who were still in their dog-like forms. It's time. Show them who you really are. In a shimmer of light and energy, the three other Stellarians transformed. Azure became a being of swirling blue energy, reminiscent of a nebula-given form. The one Jack had named Ember took on a fiery, phoenix-like appearance, while Terra resembled a sentient forest, branches and leaves constantly shifting and reforming. The sight was awe-inspiring, even in the midst of the chaos around them. Captain Reeves and Lieutenant Chen stared in wonder, their training momentarily forgotten in the face of such otherworldly beauty. We'll explain everything once we're safe, Jack promised. For now, we need to move. As they made their way through the panicked crowds towards Central Plaza, the Stellarians used their abilities to clear a path and protect civilians from falling debris. Azure created force fields of pure energy, while Terra manipulated plant life to reinforce weakening structures. Above them, the battle raged. Earth's fighters swarmed the Conclave ship, their weapons flaring against its shields. But as Sienna had warned, they seemed to have little effect. As they neared the plaza, a group of civilians, driven mad with fear, charged towards them. It's them, one man shouted, pointing at the Stellarians. They brought this upon us. Before the situation could escalate, Ember stepped forward. The fiery Stellarian emitted a pulse of warm, soothing energy that washed over the crowd. Almost instantly, the panic in their eyes faded, replaced by a calm determination. We mean you no harm. Ember's mental voice resonated, not just with Jack and the officers, but with everyone in the vicinity. We are here to protect you. The change in the crowd was palpable. Fear gave way to awe, and then to a resolve to help. As they continued towards the bunker, civilians began to organize themselves, helping the injured and directing others to safety. Finally, they reached the entrance to the underground facility. Captain Reeves placed his hand on a scanner, and a hidden door slid open. Quickly, he urged, ushering them inside. As they descended into the heart of the bunker, they found it a hive of activity. Officers and technicians rushed about, coordinating defense efforts and analyzing incoming data. On massive screens lining the walls, they could see the battle raging above the city. The stern-looking woman with graying hair and the insignia of a general approached them. Her eyes widened as she took in the Stellarians, but to her credit, she maintained her composure. "Captain Reeves, Lieutenant Chen," she acknowledged, then turned to Jack. "And you must be Jack Thorne. I'm General Yamamoto. I think it's time you told us exactly what we're dealing with." Jack took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. This was it. The full truth was about to come out. "General," he began, "Earth is caught in the middle of a galactic conflict. The Stellarians," he gestured to his companions, "are the last of an ancient, highly advanced race. They've been hunted across the galaxy by the Conclave, a group that presents itself as a peaceful federation, but is actually a conquering force." Sienna's mental voice joined in, addressing everyone in the room. "We came to Earth seeking refuge, but also to prepare your world for what was coming. We knew the Conclave would eventually find us, and when they did, Earth would be in danger." General Yamamoto's expression was unreadable. "And why Earth? Why involve us in your war?" It was Azure who answered, its nebula-like form shimmering. "Because we saw potential in humanity, a spark of something great. We believe that with our guidance, humans could become a force capable of standing against the Conclave. We've been subtly influencing your technological development," Ember added. "Many of your recent breakthroughs in energy, propulsion, and material science. They were nudged along by our efforts." The general's eyes narrowed. "So you've been manipulating us." "Guiding," Jack corrected quickly. "They've been guiding us. Everything humanity has achieved has been through our own efforts. The Stellarians just pointed us in the right direction." Terra, the forest-like Stellarian, stepped forward. Its mental voice was calm, resonant with the wisdom of ages. "We did not wish to reveal ourselves this way. We had hoped for more time to prepare, to let humanity advance at its own pace, but the Conclave forced our hand." General Yamamoto was silent for a long moment, processing this information. Finally, she spoke. "Assuming I believe all this, and given what I'm seeing, I don't have much choice. What do we do now? How do we fight an enemy with this level of technology?" Sienna's form seemed to brighten, stars within its cosmic body pulsing with energy. "Together. Your weapons alone cannot penetrate their shields, but combined with our abilities, we have a chance." As if to punctuate Sienna's words, the bunker shook violently. On the screens, they could see the Conclave ship firing another massive energy beam, this time at the city's main power plant. "They're trying to cripple our infrastructure," Lieutenant Chen observed. Jack turned to the Stellarians. "Can you do something about that ship?" Azure's nebulous form swirled with increased intensity. "We can create a localized disruption field. It won't last long, but it should weaken their shields enough for your weapons to penetrate." General Yamamoto didn't hesitate. "Do it. I'll coordinate with our fighter squadrons to concentrate fire the moment the shields are down." As Azure and Ember prepared to leave, Jack felt a sudden wave of emotion from them. A mix of determination, hope, and something else, regret. "Wait," he said, a realization dawning on him. "Creating this disruption field, what will it do to you?" The Stellarians exchanged a look that spoke volumes. It was Sienna who answered, its mental voice gentle. "It will weaken us significantly. We may not survive the effort." The room fell silent. The implications of this sacrifice hung heavy in the air. "There has to be another way," Jack protested, his voice thick with emotion. Terra's branches swayed, a rustling that somehow conveyed both sadness and resolve. "This is why we chose you, Jack. Why we chose humanity. You feel deeply, you care, you fight for what's right. But sometimes sacrifices must be made for the greater good." General Yamamoto stepped forward, her face solemn. "We won't waste your sacrifice. If you can give us this chance, we'll make it count." The Stellarians nodded in unison. Azure and Ember moved towards the exit, ready to ascend and confront the Conclave ship directly. Before they left, Azure turned to Jack one last time. Its nebulous form seemed to reach out, touching Jack's mind with a warmth he had come to know so well over the past year. "Thank you, Jack, for everything. Remember, no matter what happens, the future of Earth, of the galaxy, is in humanity's hands now." As Azure and Ember departed, Jack felt a mix of pride, fear, and overwhelming sadness. He turned to the remaining Stellarians, Sienna and Terra, his voice barely a whisper. "What do we do now?" Sienna's cosmic form seemed to pulse with determination. "Now we prepare. The real battle is just beginning, and humanity needs to be ready." On the screens above, Azure and Ember could be seen ascending towards the Conclave ship, their forms blazing against the war-torn sky of New Aurora. The fate of Earth, and perhaps the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. As alarms blared and officers rushed to battle stations, Jack Thorne stood with his alien friends, ready to face whatever came next. The secret was out, the truth revealed, and now it was time for humanity to prove itself on the galactic stage. Defenders of Earth. The command bunker beneath Central Plaza hummed with tense energy as all eyes focused on the massive display screens. Azure and Ember, now revealed in their true Stellarian forms, soared towards the looming Conclave ship. Their ethereal bodies, one a swirling nebula and the other a phoenix of living flame, stood in stark contrast to the cold, metallic behemoth they approached. Jack Thorne stood at the front of the room, his hands clenched at his sides, every muscle in his body taut with anxiety. Beside him, Sienna and Terra remained steadfast, their alien forms a reminder of how much had changed in so short a time. General Yamamoto's voice cut through the tense silence. "All fighter squadrons, this is Yamamoto. Prepare to concentrate fire on my mark. The moment those shields drop, hit them with everything we got." Acknowledgements crackled over the comms as Earth's defenders readied themselves for what could be their only chance at victory. As Azure and Ember neared the Conclave ship, its massive energy weapons turned towards them. Lances of searing light cut through the sky, but the Stellarians weaved between them with impossible grace. "They're almost in position," Lieutenant Chen reported, her voice tight with anticipation. Jack felt a sudden surge of emotion through his link with the Stellarians, a complex mixture of determination, fear, and love. It hit him then, the full weight of what Azure and Ember were about to do. "Wait," he said, his voice cracking. "There has to be another way. We can't just—" Sienna's mental voice interrupted him, gentle but firm. "Jack, this was always a possibility. They knew the risks when we came to Earth. We all did." Before Jack could respond, Azure and Ember reached the Conclave ship. For a moment, they seemed to pause, their forms pulsing with built-up energy. Then, in a blinding flash that forced everyone in the bunker to shield their eyes, they released their power. A shockwave of pure energy rippled outward from the point of impact. The Conclave ship shields flared brightly, trying to repel the assault, but the combined might of the two Stellarians was too much. Cracks of blue lightning spider-webbed across the shield's surface. "Now," General Yamamoto shouted, "all units, fire at will." Earth's fighters swarmed in, unleashing a barrage of missiles and energy weapons. This time, their attacks found purchase. Explosions blossomed across the Conclave ship's hull as its weakened shields failed to repel the onslaught. But the victory was short-lived. As the smoke cleared, the Conclave ship remained largely intact, its weapons turning once more to the city below. And Azure and Ember were gone. A collective gasp went through the command center. Jack felt his knees go weak, steadying himself against a nearby console. He reached out with his mind, desperately searching for any trace of his friends, but found only a fading echo of their presence. They did it, Captain Reeves said, his voice a mix of awe and sorrow. They weakened the shields. But it wasn't enough, General Yamamoto finished grimly. That ship is still operational, and we just lost our strongest assets. As if to emphasize her point, the Conclave ship fired another devastating beam into the city. The bunker shook with the impact, dust falling from the ceiling. Jack turned to Sienna and Tara, his eyes pleading. What do we do now? There has to be something else we can try. The two remaining Stellarians exchanged a look that seemed to convey volumes. Finally, Tara spoke, its mental voice resolute. There is one more option, but it will require the cooperation of your entire species. General Yamamoto stepped forward, her expression stern but open. Whatever it is, if it can save our world, we're listening. Sienna's cosmic form pulsed with energy as it began to explain. The Conclave's power comes from unity, not just technological, but psychological. Their entire species is linked in a vast psychic network. It's what makes them so formidable. But it's also a weakness, Tara continued. If we could create a counter-network, a psychic link between all of humanity, amplified by our remaining power, we could overwhelm their defenses, Jack finished, understanding dawning on him. Lieutenant Chen looked skeptical. A psychic link between all of humanity. Is that even possible? With our help, yes, Sienna answered. But it would require the willing participation of every human on the planet. And it would be intense. The human mind isn't naturally equipped for this kind of connection. General Yamamoto's brow furrowed. The logistics of getting everyone on Earth to agree to this in time. It's impossible. But Jack's mind was racing. Maybe not, he said, an idea forming. We don't need everyone to agree. We just need to give them a reason to unite. He turned to the general. Your communication systems, can you broadcast a message to every screen, every speaker on the planet? Yamamoto nodded slowly. Yes, but... Do it, Jack said, his voice filled with newfound determination. I need to speak to everyone. Now, as the technical staff scrambled to set up the broadcast, Jack closed his eyes, centering himself. He felt the comforting presence of Sienna and Tara in his mind, lending him strength. You're sure about this? General Yamamoto asked, a note of concern in her voice. Jack opened his eyes, meeting her gaze steadily. No, he admitted, but it's the only chance we've got. Moments later, Lieutenant Chen gave the signal. We're live, Mr. Thorne. The whole world is watching. Jack took a deep breath and began to speak, his words carried to every corner of the globe. People of Earth, my name is Jack Thorne. By now, you've seen the alien ship attacking our cities. You've heard the rumors, the speculation. I'm here to tell you the truth. He gestured to Sienna and Tara. These beings are called Stellarians. They came to Earth seeking refuge and to prepare us for this moment. The ship attacking us belongs to a group called the Conclave, a force that has dominated and destroyed countless worlds across the galaxy. Jack paused, letting the magnitude of his words sink in. But today, we have a chance to stop them, to show the galaxy that humanity will not go quietly into the night. The Stellarians have given us a way to fight back, but it requires something from all of you. He leaned closer to the camera, his eyes intense. In a few moments, you may feel a strange sensation, a presence in your mind. Don't be afraid. It's the key to our survival. I'm asking you, all of you, to open yourselves to this connection, to join your thoughts, your will, with every other human on this planet. I know it sounds impossible. I know it's scary. But look outside. Look at what we're facing. We don't have the luxury of doubt or division anymore. United, we have a chance. Divided, we fall. Jack's voice softened, filled with emotion. I've seen what these beings can do. I felt the power of their unity. And I believe, with every fiber of my being, that humanity can match it. We can surpass it, but only if we stand together. He straightened, his expression resolute. So I'm asking you. No, I'm begging you. When you feel that presence, don't fight it. Embrace it. Add your voice, your spirit, to the chorus of humanity. Let's show the conclave. Let's show the entire galaxy what Earth can do when we stand as one. As Jack finished speaking, he nodded to Sienna and Terra. The two Stellarians began to glow, their forms expanding until they filled the entire command center with shimmering light. And then it began. Jack felt it first, a gentle touch at the edges of his consciousness, like a soft breeze on a summer day. Then it grew stronger, a tide of thoughts and emotions washing over him. Fear, hope, determination, confusion. The full spectrum of human experience flooded his senses. Around the room, people gasped and staggered as the psychic link took hold. On the screens, they could see similar reactions playing out across the globe. For a moment, it seemed like chaos might prevail, the sheer overwhelming nature of the connection threatening to shatter minds. But then, something remarkable happened. As millions, then billions of minds connected, a sort of harmony began to emerge. The cacophony of individual thoughts coalesced into a symphony of shared purpose. Jack felt it building, a power unlike anything he had ever experienced. Through the windows of the bunker, they could see a soft glow beginning to emanate from the ground itself, spreading across the city like a wave. Similar reports came in from around the world, a gentle, pulsing light that seemed to be coming from the very Earth itself. In orbit, astronauts on the International Space Station watched in awe as the entire planet began to shimmer with an ethereal blue-green glow. Back in the bunker, General Yamamoto's eyes widened as she looked at the readouts on her screens. The energy levels, they're off the charts. Whatever you're doing, it's working. Jack barely heard her. He was lost in the connection, feeling the hopes and fears of all of humanity flowing through him. And at the center of it all, guiding and amplifying the link, were Sienna and Terra, their Stellarian energy intertwining with the human psychic network. Above the city, the conclave ship suddenly stopped its attack, its weapons powered down as if confused by what it was sensing. Now, Sienna's mental voice resonated through the link, heard not just by those in the bunker, but by every connected mind on the planet. Focus your will. Imagine pushing against the ship, driving it away from Earth. As one, humanity concentrated. The glow around the planet intensified, coalescing into a visible beam of energy that shot towards the conclave ship. The massive vessel shuddered as the beam struck it. For a moment, it seemed to resist, its own psychic network fighting against the onslaught of human will. But the combined mental force of an entire planet, amplified by Stellarian power, was too much. With a sound that reverberated through both the air and the psychic link, the conclave ship's hull began to crack. Fissures of light spread across its surface, growing brighter and wider with each passing second. And then, in a flash brighter than the sun, the ship exploded. The psychic link vibrated with a collective cheer as humanity realized what it had accomplished. But Jack knew it wasn't over yet. He could feel the strain on Sienna and Terra, the enormous effort it was taking them to maintain the connection. "We did it," he said, his voice hoarse with emotion. "We actually did it." As the debris of the conclave ship rained down harmlessly into the upper atmosphere, burning up on re-entry, Jack felt the psychic link begin to fade. Slowly, gently, Sienna and Terra withdrew their power, allowing the billions of connected minds to return to their individual states. The glow around the Earth dimmed, leaving behind a world forever changed. As the link dissolved completely, Jack stumbled, suddenly feeling the full weight of what had just transpired. Captain Reeves caught him before he could fall. "Easy there, hero," he said with a tired smile. General Yamamoto approached, her usual stern demeanor softened by a look of profound respect. "Mr. Thorne, Jack, I don't know how to thank you. How to thank all of you," she added, looking at Sienna and Tara. But Jack's attention was on the Stellarians. Their forms seemed dimmer now, less substantial. "Are you all right?" he asked, concern evident in his voice. Sienna's mental voice was weak but warm. "We will be, Jack." But maintaining that connection, it took nearly everything we had left. "Rest now," Tara added. "All of you. You've earned it. But be prepared. This victory, impressive as it is just the beginning." As the bunker erupted into tired but joyous celebration, Jack looked at the screens showing scenes from around the world. People were embracing in the streets, crying, laughing, staring at the sky in wonder. He knew Tara was right. This was just the beginning. The conclave would be back, and Earth would need to be ready. But for the first time since this all began, Jack felt a genuine sense of hope. Humanity had faced its first galactic-level threat and emerged victorious. United, they had achieved the impossible, and with the Stellarians by their side, who knew what they might accomplish next. As the first rays of dawn broke over a changed Earth, Jack Thorne smiled. The future, uncertain as it was, had never looked brighter. A new understanding. In the days that follow humanity's victory over the Conclave ship, a new era dawned on Earth. The world, once divided by borders, ideologies, and petty conflicts, found itself united by the shared experience of the psychic link and the common threat they had faced together. Jack Thorne stood at the window of a high-rise apartment in New Aurora, gazing out at the city below. The scars of the battle were still visible, damaged buildings, scorched streets, but amid the destruction, there was an unmistakable air of hope and determination. Crews worked tirelessly to repair the damage, their efforts a testament to humanity's resilience. Behind him, Sienna and Tara rested, their forms still diminished from the enormous effort of maintaining the global psychic link. They had taken on a more subdued appearance, looking almost like shimmering, translucent versions of their former selves. A gentle knock at the door drew Jack's attention. "Come in," he called, turning from the window. General Yamamoto entered, followed by Captain Reeves and Lieutenant Chen. The general's usually stern face bore a tired smile. "Mr. Thorne," she said, nodding respectfully. "How are our allies doing?" Jack glanced at the Stellarians. "They're recovering. Slowly, but steadily. How's the situation out there?" "Chaotic," Reeves answered, "but in a good way, if that makes sense. People are coming together like never before. The lingering effects of the psychic link. It's changed things." Chen nodded in agreement. "We're seeing unprecedented cooperation between nations. Former enemies are offering aid to each other. It's like everyone suddenly remembers that we're all human." Jack couldn't help but smile. It was exactly what the Stellarians had hoped for. A humanity united, ready to face the challenges of a larger, more complex universe. "And the governments?" Jack asked, turning to Yamamoto. "How are they handling all of this?" The general's expression turned serious. "That's actually why we're here. The United Nations has called for an emergency session. They want you there, Jack. You and the Stellarians. It's time to officially introduce Earth to its new reality." Jack felt a mix of anticipation and dread. This was the moment of truth. How would humanity, as a whole, react to the full truth of their situation? Sienna's weak but determined voice echoed in their minds. "We will go. It's time." The UN General Assembly was packed to capacity. Representatives from every nation on Earth sat in tense anticipation. The events of the past few days had shaken the world to its core, and now they awaited explanations, reassurances, and a path forward. As Jack walked onto the stage, flanked by Sienna and Tara, a hush fell over the crowd. He could feel the weight of billions of eyes upon him, watching via global broadcasts. Taking a deep breath, Jack stepped up to the podium. Distinguished representatives, citizens of Earth, I stand before you today, not just as a fellow human, but as a bridge between our world and a universe far vaster and more complex than most of us ever imagined. He gestured to the Stellarians beside him. These beings, whom I've come to know as friends, are called Stellarians. They came to Earth seeking refuge from a force known as the Conclave, a group that has dominated and destroyed countless worlds across the galaxy. A murmur ran through the assembly. Jack pressed on. The Stellarians chose Earth not just as a hiding place, but because they saw potential in us. They believed that with guidance, humanity could become a force capable of standing against the Conclave and other threats that exist among the stars. Over the past year, they've been subtly influencing our technological development, preparing us for the moment when we would need to defend ourselves. That moment came sooner than any of us expected, but together, we prevailed. Jack paused, letting his words sink in. But our victory over a single Conclave ship is just the beginning. The galaxy is a dangerous place, filled with wonders and terrors beyond our current understanding. We must be prepared. Sienna stepped forward, its diminished form still awe-inspiring to the assembled representatives. Its mental voice echoed through the hall, calm and resolute. People of Earth, you have shown incredible courage and unity in the face of an overwhelming threat. But the Conclave will return, and there are other forces in the galaxy that may see your world as a target or a prize. Terra joined in, its voice intertwining with Sienna's. We Stellarians are the last of our kind. We can guide you, share our knowledge, but the future of Earth, of humanity, rests in your hands. You must choose how to move forward in this new reality. The assembly erupted into a cacophony of voices, questions flying from all directions. Jack raised his hands, calling for calm. I know you have questions. We all do. But right now, we need to focus on immediate actions. We need to pool our resources, accelerate our technological development, and prepare our defenses. But more than that, we need to maintain the unity we found in our moment of crisis. A representative from a small nation stood up. Mr. Thorne, how can we trust that these Stellarians truly have our best interests at heart? How do we know they won't simply use us to fight their war against the Conclave? Jack understood the fear behind the question. He turned to Sienna and Terra, nodding for them to answer. Sienna's form shimmered as it addressed the assembly. We understand your doubts. Trust is earned, not given. We chose to reveal ourselves fully, to risk everything, to save your world. We could have hidden, let the Conclave destroy Earth, and moved on. But we believe in humanity's potential. We see in you the best of what we once were, and what we hope to be again. Terra added, we do not seek to rule you or use you. We offer partnership, guidance, but the choices must be yours. We will share our knowledge, but how you use it, how you grow, that is for humanity to decide. The room fell silent as the representatives absorbed these words. Jack could see the mixture of emotions playing across their faces: fear, hope, determination. Another representative stood, this one from one of Earth's most powerful nations. Mr. Thorne, Stellarians, you speak of unity, of pooling our resources. But our world has long been divided. How can we overcome centuries of conflict and mistrust? Jack smiled, feeling a surge of hope. Look around you, he said, gesturing to the assembly. A week ago, many of you were adversaries. Now you sit together, united by a common experience, a shared threat. The psychic link we formed to defeat the Conclave. It didn't create unity out of nothing. It revealed the unity that was always there, beneath our surface differences. He leaned forward, his voice passionate. We don't have to agree on everything. Our diversity, our different perspectives. That's our strength. But we must agree on this. Earth's future, humanity's future, depends on our ability to work together. The universe out there doesn't care about our old borders or conflicts. To them, we are one world, one species. It's time we started seeing ourselves that way too. A ripple of agreement passed through the assembly. Jack could feel the mood shifting, fear giving way to determination, division to unity. The Secretary General of the UN stood up. Mr. Thorne, Sienna, Terra, on behalf of the United Nations and the people of Earth, I thank you for your honesty and your help in our time of need. It's clear we have much to discuss and much to decide. But I believe I speak for all of us when I say, we are ready to face this new reality together. As applause filled the chamber, Jack felt a wave of emotion from Sienna and Terra. Pride, hope, and a touch of sadness. He knew they were thinking of Azure and Ember, of the sacrifice that had made this moment possible. In the days and weeks that followed, the world changed at a dizzying pace. Nations pooled their resources, forming a global defense initiative. Scientific cooperation reached unprecedented levels as humanity raced to understand and adapt Stellarian technology. The Stellarians, true to their word, shared their knowledge freely. Under their guidance, breakthroughs in energy production, space travel, and even medicine came at an astonishing rate. But it wasn't just technology that was advancing. The lingering effects of the psychic link had profound societal impacts. People found themselves more empathetic, more understanding of different perspectives. Old hatreds and prejudices began to fade as the memory of shared consciousness persisted. Jack found himself at the center of it all, a bridge between humanity and the Stellarians, helping to navigate the complex waters of this new era. One evening, months after the attack, Jack stood with Sienna and Terra on the roof of the newly constructed Stellarian embassy in New Aurora. The city had been rebuilt, now a shining example of human-Stellarian cooperation. Buildings incorporated organic, living components inspired by Stellarian designs. Clean energy flowed freely, and the skies were filled with new advanced vehicles that hinted at humanity's growing mastery of anti-gravity technology. It's amazing, Jack said, gazing out at the city. Sometimes I can hardly believe how far we've come in such a short time. Sienna's form, now mostly recovered, pulsed with warm light. Humanity's capacity for growth and adaptation is truly remarkable. You've exceeded even our highest hopes. Terra added, its voice tinged with both pride and caution. But remember, this is just the beginning. The conclave will return, and there are other challenges waiting out there among the stars. Jack nodded, his expression determined. We'll be ready. Whatever comes, we'll face it together. As if on cue, a flash of light in the sky caught their attention. For a moment, Jack tensed, memories of the conclave attack surfacing. But then he relaxed, smiling as he recognized the source. A sleek spacecraft, a hybrid of human and Stellarian design, descended towards the city's spaceport. It was the first of Earth's new defense fleet, returning from its maiden voyage to Mars. As the ship landed, Jack felt a surge of pride and hope. Humanity had taken its first real steps into the cosmic arena. There would be challenges ahead, dangers and wonders beyond imagination. But they would face them united, with the wisdom of the Stellarians to guide them. The secret that had begun with a man walking his alien dogs had blossomed into a new chapter for humanity. As the sun set on New Aurora, painting the sky in brilliant hues, Jack Thorne looked to the stars with a mixture of anticipation and resolve. The universe awaited, and Earth was finally ready to take its place among the celestial tapestry of civilizations. Whatever the future held, they would face it together, humans and Stellarians, united in their quest for knowledge, peace, and understanding in the vast cosmic ocean.